Okay, so last week, before the colossal breakdown that ensued last week, we had just gotten to the point where the survey question component also had a form in it and could alternate with this editing thing. But since maybe people have forgotten exactly what's going on and where we are, I figure we can kind of go over one more time what's the state of affairs right now, and yeah, give you guys a chance to sort of get your bearings. Additionally, I should probably take the opportunity to. Does everybody have a link to this code sandbox? Because you can look at my code and copy paste if you want to, like, be. Okay, good. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Okay. So we got. Would you like to? I can do a live session. Here's a live session. Where should I send it to? Oh. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Slack, JS group. Here's general. Here's a. Cool.
Yeah.
If you want to follow along, there's that. So yeah, we've got our survey builder component, which is the top level, right? And we had extracted a survey. We had extracted a survey title component that I guess I'm not using here yet for some reason. But whatever, maybe this is an old version. We did write the survey title component though, and it exists, so that's good. Let's focus on the survey question today though, and we can fix up all that other stuff later. I had to undo some stuff in order to get back to the state of the beginning of last week. So we're looping through, making a bunch of survey questions, and the survey questions themselves are at this point the display and the form for editing a survey question as it exists. And so it's got a piece of internal state which is called editing, right? And this is where we had just gotten to, right? This first blob here, this div with the label in a text area and a conditional list of options, that's what we had done just to display it. And then we had put that all in a vif not editing. And we've got a form down here, velse, and the form has a label for, text and type and options, which isn't being visible right now. So let's change that to true just to see it. And I might need to refresh the page. Yes. Okay. So now we've got a label of text and an input there, and a label with type and an input here, and maybe a field set with a bunch of different options in it. Short answers obviously don't show it, and the other two do. And for the inputs, right, again, we're using v4 here, right, so that's looping through and displaying one element per option in question.options. And then option is bound so that we can use it in value and set it to actually be the contents. Anybody have any questions about the current state of everything? Feeling good? Cool. Okay. So then the next task is to hook all of this up, right? One thing that we would want to be able to do is change to short answer and have the options go away. We also want to make sure that any changes we make here will actually be persisted if we stop editing, which at this point we also don't even have a way of doing. So we could start by, yeah, that's a nice simple place to start, is like, let's put in a button that toggles whether or not we're editing. Right, we've done this before, we know how to do it, we'll do it again and just hammer that home. So editing, if it defaults to false, we're going to need some way of changing whether or not it's editing, right? Maybe a button. Maybe that button can go here. I don't know. Button type button. It can say edit. We got a button that doesn't do anything yet. So what do? We have to bind something. We can bind on click some method that probably should be called toggle editing. Something like that.
Property that
And so then we got to write toggle editing. So after computed, methods, and toggle editing is a method that does very simply this dot editing equals not this dot editing.
And has everybody seen that sort of thing, like practicing before whenever you're talking or something? That's easier and a much shorter way of just making whatever it is the opposite. If it's false, make it true. And if it's true, make it false. And literally just saying whatever it is, make it the opposite.
Oh yeah, good point. That's a thing that I have seen so many times that I forgot it might be something new to somebody. Yeah, we're just reversing it.
And this is a method because it's affecting the data, right? It's having kind of side effects.
Exactly, it has side effects, and also we want to control exactly when it gets called, right? Computed properties are computed every time that the data backing them changes, and so we don't even have control of when a computed property is called. Whereas methods, like we can say, call this method on click for this button right here. Yep, so it works. We can edit and then unedit, except for that unedit is also edit, which is a little confusing.
One other brief observation to continue to distinguish between computed properties and methods is that you don't have to do it this way, but it does help to think about methods as being actions that you take and actively name.
Oh yeah.
Versus computed properties are more information.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It has option is a computed property versus toggle editing is an action that you're taking to affect something.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And a source of confusion is that you can totally put query methods on an object. So you might have seen query methods on an object before, but in this case, because we're it separates that so that computed properties are cached, right? And makes it a little bit easier to use. But fundamentally, they could be methods. We just have this better option. Yeah, okay, cool. So that edit button works now, but the text doesn't change, and so we can make the text change. And the text change is the perfect candidate for a computed property, right? And that's because it only changes when the data changes, and it also doesn't need to be recalculated every single time we render. If the data hasn't changed, then it's cached. Asks a question: what should the edit button text be? And then we answer with edit button text. It looks like a method again because it is technically, but here we can do the if this.editing return done, else return edit, something like that. Now it says done. Don't know what that space is all about, but not worried about styling right now. Sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So now that we have the ability to go into edit mode, we should probably make it so that when we change something, it actually is reflected in the change, right? And what that means is we need to propagate these changes up to the level of the component tree where we're keeping the state. And remember, we're keeping all of the state about what the survey is. We're keeping that in Survey Builder so that later when we want to submit the survey to the backend, which is going to administer it to people, right, we're going to have an API request that has to include the title and all the questions. And so all the questions need to live on this level where, we can deal with them all together. Yep, so we're passing them down like this with the bound question, and we're at input, on input, updating the question. So we've already, well, no, we haven't actually written that out yet, have we? Because I should have deleted that, right? Okay, well, anyway, preview from last week's aborted mistake. We'll get to that, though. So anyway, yeah, we're passing this question down, and So we're receiving it here in props, right? Properties that your
Inside the
parent
survey
passes to you. Inside of survey question, we're being told about the question that is involved, and we're also being told about index because I didn't delete that from last week. But anyway, the question is a prop right now, an object with type text, type, and options, right? Those keys. And we need to change that when any of these inputs are changed. But we don't want to modify our props directly. Props are being passed down from Maker. In Survey Builder.
Inside Survey Builder, in the data, you see there's a questions array, and we're looping through that array inside of the UL. And then, so there's one question per survey question inside of that loop.
And how do you pass that survey builder to survey?
Like
Just
this.
like that. So you declare the prop name before the equals sign, and then you pass the actual contents in.
Yeah. Right, so remember the colon is shorthand for vbind, which means that that attribute is bound to a piece of evaluated code. And so this string here is evaluated as JavaScript in the context of the view model. So it's equivalent to doing this dot question.
So that way you're actually getting the question object. If you didn't have the vbind or the colon, it would literally be passing it the string question.
Yeah. Make sense? Yeah, so shorthand there is what people are going to write most often, so better get used to it. But yeah, passing down the question, the thing is that Vue has, like this component tree, it has a data down, events up kind of architecture, right? And that's to prevent all sorts of bugs that happen when you're mutating things all over the tree, right? And you can't keep track of what's happening. So props go down and events go up. And that's the only way that you can change your props. It'll yell at you if you try to change your props, although we discovered last year it doesn't yell at you in exactly every situation due to JavaScript reasons. Index? Index.html has this in it. Main.js has this in it. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. I'm just not using that yet because we had...
We're not there yet.
we didn't need it yet. Yeah.
We didn't manage to delete everything.
I didn't manage to delete everything perfectly. Yeah. So as of right now, we know about our question. We know we need to tell Survey Builder when the user wants to change the question, because we can't change the question ourselves. Survey Builder needs to change the question. And so the way we're going to do that is by emitting events anytime the question text or type or options change.
Kind of like calling up the parent component saying, hey, this is new information for you.
Yeah.
Here you go. And then it will receive that.
Yeah. But of course, we can't actually, we can't actually back one of these type or inputs with an immutable thing, right? We have to have a local draft that the user can edit while they're in our component, and then we can notice when they've edited that and kick it up to Survey Builder. So I'm going to add to the data here. I'm going to add a local value or something, right? And local value is going to have a default of the same as that question, but because of how JavaScript works, when you pass props in, when you pass objects around, objects and arrays, they're passed by reference, right? So it's just a reference to the same object that lives only one place.
And by reference, you mean it's literally the same thing. Like it's actually...
Yeah, like instead of saying, hey, it's a, like for a number or a string or whatever, when you're calling a function or passing a reference around in another way, or when you're passing by value. You say, it's 3, and then that person holds onto their own 3, which is the same as your 3, because 3 is always 3, but like if they change their 3 to be 4, then that doesn't change your 3. With objects, because they can be quite large, you're not actually going to copy all of the data by default. Most of the time when you're calling a function, you'll just pass a reference, which means like, there's this object that we both know about, and I'm going to tell you where to find it. so you can find it and do what you need to do with it. And then, that's way cheaper because I'm just telling you where to find the object. But the thing is, if you then change that object, like you're changing the same one for all of us.
It changes every year.
I'm sorry?
That's not really accepted.
Yeah, similar. Exactly, because it's just a pointer. It just says this is where the object is. And maybe I want to allow you to change it. Sometimes that's fine, but in this case, because it totally introduces a bunch of bugs, you're not supposed to change your props. And so to avoid changing our props here, we're gonna copy the data inside of question. Right? So instead of just doing this dot question, which would again be passing a reference to the same exact question. Yeah, they'd be two different variables that refer to the same question, the same object that lives somewhere in memory. We're going to copy it. And we're going to use the spread operator for that because you guys can. And yeah, basically what that's doing is making a new object, the contents of which are the properties of the old question spread out. Right? Have you seen the spread operator before for objects? View reasons. View magic is why we don't need to do this .props question. No. That's a React thing.
This is the syntax for view and referring to props.
Yeah. Yeah, so the dot 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 here just basically means every property inside of this question object, like individually take it out and then add it to this other thing, take it out and then add it to this other thing, take it out and then, right? So because what we're adding it to is this empty or this new object, it's going to make a new object with all the same properties inside. Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. So the local value then we can change and not have to worry about it. So up here in the input for text, right, we can find the on input or the input event. Right, we can say on input. What do we want to do? Handle change input, or we could just inline. What do you want to do, Nathan?
I don't know. My approach with this is just a little bit different. Rather than listening for every single input, it makes more sense in my head to only fire this event when they click done.
Okay.
Because otherwise, what's the point of having the done?
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Sure. We can do that. No, we can't do that. This won't change then. Like the options should disappear when you go to short answer, and if we're waiting until we click done to tell Survey Builder that the change has been made.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh no, never mind. If we're keeping track of the local thing, never mind. You're right. Nathan's smart. What do you want to do? Do you want to use a method, or do you want to inline it, Nathan?
Let's do method.
Okay. How about handle change text? Is that good?
Yep.
So the handle change text method down here, we'll add after toggle editing. Maybe we'll say handle change text, and it's going to take an event, and then we can say this dot input type. No, sorry, this dot what is it? Question the local value. Local value dot type text equals e dot target dot value. That makes sense? I think so. I think so too. We do want to make sure that this up here is.
Why aren't you just binding to the local question dot text right from the beginning?
I was going to change that, by the way. That was exactly what I was going to change.
So your method of non-modifying props is just
Yep.
It's local value.
I like the local question because you already said it too.
if it's local, how does local say
When we click done, we're going to emit an event that says that the question has been changed. So that's handle change text. Let's see if, well, we haven't done the emit yet, so we can test it maybe in the view dev tools just to see if it's doing what we expect it to do. Right, so our view dev tools here will show the tree, right?
Right now we're just making sure that the local question's paying attention to when the action is. That inputted then the file whenever there's a key string.
Yeah. Right, so here's our question in the props. Here's the local question that is being that was copied. So that's all the same data. If we go to edit, we can see editing true. That's what we thought. And then as I change this, local question changes, but the question prop doesn't change because we haven't actually fired that event to tell Survey Builder that we've made the change. So that's good, very good. We want to add one of the same style of thing for the type, and it is pretty much exactly the same, I think. We'll do it on, is it change or input, maybe? Change? Yeah, change. Okay, because selects, that's just HTML stuff. Handle change type. So now we got to write a handle change type method. Question, commas are required, which is annoying. Handle change type. It's probably freaking out because I got the DevTools open in the other window. Handle change type. Again, an event. This dot local question dot type equals e dot target dot value still, right? Maybe, but let's not do that right now. It might just make it more complicated. So yeah. Now we should see. Sorry, what?
Is the handle whatever it's like a convention of JavaScript, or is it?
I have no idea.
I've seen that in a lot of places.
It is definitely a React convention. It might also be a good convention for an event handler in Vue. I mean, the idea being, like, you should expect it to be a method that takes an event, right? Because it's handling. Yeah, you know. But maybe that's, I don't know. It's entirely possible that that's just a convention in React, and you can call it whatever you want, really. I mean, you can always call it whatever you want. Anyway, so handle change type there. Oh yeah, so the target, it's the target of the event. So where's the event being fired from? The event is being fired from the select right here on change. So e.target in this case is going to be this select. And so then we're looking at the value, which is, you know, whatever selected option is. And HTML works really stupidly, so Vue makes sense, and select our value is going to be it. So let's check the dev tools to make sure that that works. Vue dev tools are here. So looking at our survey question, we go into editing mode, we switch to pick any number, and didn't work. Okay. It might not be e.target.value. I'm going to answer this for myself by, let's see, we're going to find the select on the page. We notice that that's $. Wait, hold on, I might want to do this with the view model because they change things, don't they? Or, anyway, let's see. O dot value doesn't do anything. Underbar value seems to be something. Are you looking at the docs, Nathan?
I'm looking at what it's changing.
Let's look at the docs. Let's look at the docs. Vue.js.org. Yeah? Is that how it's going to work?
So the change event isn't fired apparently every time there's a change in value.
Oh, okay. Good. Then let's do that. let's use input because it's fired every time there's a change in the value. That seems like what we want. So if we use input there, and we go over here and we get back to a known state by refreshing. Here's a survey question. It's got that data. We go into editing. We change this, and it doesn't do it. Handle that change, or handle change type. Here's handle change type. Debugger.
So right now we're just making sure that the event is actually getting to that.
So it does fire, and now I can actually look at, I wanted to be able to inspect this event. So here's the event that we're being passed, and here's the target, and value is probably predictably going to be unchanged, right? Here's value, object, no, wait, what? Interesting. Interesting. So this local question, there's the type equals so that should have changed it, which it does. Why then does it not reflect that change in the view.js? It does. Stop debugging. Don't do that. No breakpoints. Why is it only changing when I click away and then click back on?
Because of focus? Because of blur?
Oh no, because look. Here I blur, no change. If I click away and click back on, it's entirely possible that the view dev tools just don't work as well as I thought they would. So anyway, it seems to work. Seems to be working. Let's just go and verify this for ourselves. Remember, I'm going to put we can always just like look at the contents here. So after the survey question, I'm going to put a pre-thing that has the contents of question, or of local question. So it does change.
So there's just something weird happening in the web page, and now it's not picking up change.
Yeah, and also something weird happening here. Everything is weird. It's okay. I think it's just not as easy to debug as. I know why that. I didn't bind to local question here. So find a local question there, and then it actually changes when we change in all the places. Yay, everything works the way we expect it to. Except for that. But that's okay. If we recalculate has options from the local question as well. And maybe, well, that doesn't matter actually. But we could for consistency's sake. So now we should be able to choose short answer and have that disappear, which we can. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, which is convenient.
Yes, exactly. Okay, cool. So we've done the type now. Last up is to do the options. And the options are a little bit more complex because there are more than one of them. Okay. And so each of these inputs is going to have an on input listener, which is going to handle change input, but it doesn't know which input to change, right? If we just do this, it's going to change all of them together. Or that's the only thing that would make sense for it to do, right? So we also need to pass in something about the index of the input, right? And how do you think we should do that, Nathan?
Well, you could, where do you get the indexes from the V4?
Mm-hmm. So we get the index like this, and then we have the index available to us. So if I do that, though, I'm losing the event, right? I think there's a view magic thing.
Yeah, there's like a dollar sign.
I think $ event is the view magic thing that will let me get that, but we'll see. Does that kind of make sense, right? Because I need to add this piece of information about which index we're dealing with. So yeah. Anyway, we can write the handle change index method now. Handle change. Did I miss? Sorry, handle change option. What did I call it up there? Probably called it something wrong. Yes, handle change option. And handle change option will take an event and also an index. And then we can say this dot local question dot options index equals target dot value. And then ostensibly we should see this. Maybe I need to refresh. Nope. Okay, so the way that Vue does this listening, though, remember, like it has to wire in a bunch of observers, which is a little weird, but it basically is overriding the equals sign when you do an equals. And the thing is, it can only do that if it. So basically, the thing that I'm trying to get at here, and I'm having a hard time explaining, so let's start from the other end, is that we are going to have to spread out options as well, because options is an array, and arrays are objects. And so we just did a shallow copy where we copied all of the values of each of the properties inside of the question object. Right, our shallow copy said, okay, text, well, that's just a string, so I'm going to copy it. Type, well, that's just a string, so I'm going to copy it. And then options, well, that's a reference to an object, so I'm going to copy the reference to the object. Right, and it's just copying the reference to the object and not actually the contents of the object. So I think if we go in here and we spread out again into an array, this dot question dot options, I believe that that will allow this to work. Nope. Maybe I need to refresh. Nope. Well, what's up with this? Let's do what we did last time. Put a debugger there. We'll open the DevTools and we should see it do that, which it does. We want to this dot local question. Oops. Gosh, where did the sources go? So we can see that the options.
Some of the examples are passing me the after.
Is it doing that for a reason that you can tell?
In the documentation just
So options should also have an observer, and it does. Is it something about assigning to the element of an array that's not working? Is that a thing? Options.observer.value. No, so the observer has picked that up, I think.
The docs just listed as
Are they also dealing with an array? Because we are getting the event and the input correctly. It's that it's not going into the, it's not like being seen by view. The survey builder, that is how we expect it to be, so the props haven't changed. And then local question, what has changed? Oh, go away, stop, no breakpoints. No. This local question dot options brackets index equals retarget array.
These limitations in JavaScript you can make it like the following and directly set an item to index.
Yes. So what does it suggest? Okay, it is. We could either use splice or we could use view.set. Let's use splice. So since I guess view can't listen to the subscript notation like this, which is annoying. And anyway, so we'll do it differently. We'll say local question dot options dot splice, and splice takes an index, and then we say we give it 1 because we want to replace one thing with the new target.value. It's like that, right, Nathan? I'm also looking at the docs on Michael's screen, so I'm pretty confident. Cool. So that should work. And the reason it's not letting me change that is because I'm still bound up here to question and not local question. Yay! Nice. We found it. Okay, so there's the caveat, right? Yeah, basically. That guy. That's pretty annoying. Okay, cool. So then, now, we are in the situation where we changed that to what's your favorite animal or whatever. It correctly reflects that in local question, but if we hit done, we go back to what's your favorite color. And that's because we haven't told Survey Builder about the contents here, right? And so we need to do that. And that done button, where we're doing toggle editing, well, yeah, so this is where we got to add a little bit of complexity to our toggle editing, right?
because if editing is true, when we click it, we also want it to fire up to the phone.
Yeah, so instead of making toggle editing more complicated here, I think it makes more sense that these should actually just be two different buttons, right? That one of them starts editing, and the other saves and finishes editing, right? Those are two different things, and I think let's do that. Let's move this toggle editing button up into the the non-editing display mode, right? Maybe we can, I mean, toggle editing.
It's still accurate.
It's still,
And we're still going to have to use that method when we fire the other event to get out of the
yeah, I mean, if we, yeah, okay, so we can call it toggle editing. By definition, it's only going to be shown We don't really need that to be computed anymore because we're going to do two different buttons, and that's probably just a little bit of added simplicity. Then we can copy that guy down and put it in the end of the form. And then we can also do the more accurate thing and call it button type submit, right? Now this actually has a lot of benefits. It's more semantic for HTML, and we can say, oh, and then we can do the even most semantically correct thing and say for the form we want to do on submit. So let's do that. Let's say on submit for this form we save changes. Sound good? So now we got to write the save changes method, save changes. Doesn't matter if it passes an event because we don't care about the contents of that. I do need to stop that from blowing up and freezing my editor. So here's save changes. And what are we doing here? We want to tell our parent about the change to the question. And so we're going to emit an event. Right? So this $sign emit for ViewMagick. We're going to pass the name of an event.
It can be anything.
It could be anything. In this case, since there's something that makes sense in the DOM APIs already, like change is pretty much exactly what we want here. The user has finished engaging with the control and we're firing off this is the new value. Let's do that. Let's pass change. And the new value is this .local question.
So we're not like we're emitting an event, but we're also passing information back up to the client.
Yeah, whatever you include in for other arguments of emit here are the things that will be passed as arguments to the handler. Right? You can include as many as you'd like. By default, one is usually enough, but maybe more than one is fine too. Oh, actually, no, one is not enough right here, because we're going to need to do it in index too, aren't we? Unless let's do it the same as we did it here. That's actually probably better. Okay. So survey builder, let's listen for that. Our survey question is going to, on change, have to do something like update question or handle change question or something like that. So let's write that method, handle change question, which we can tell it what we want to take. In this case, we probably want to take a question, and we're probably going to need an index because we've got to know which question to change. Right. So let's also get an index here. And so then, just like we did in the other component, we can include extra data with this by using the $sign event guy and something local like an index, which we can get out of the loop here. Cool?
One part of this that's confusing to me is not passing the question for the change event. I get that it's coming from the child component, but it's weird to me to not have that declared explicitly in the change.
You mean that this is the event?
Question. Right. Like, so if you scroll down to where you're defining handle change, you're passing in question index. Is the question coming? I guess it's coming from the event.
Yeah. I mean, it is the body of the event. Let's see what it is. Let's call it event right now and just see what it is. Because that's the thing that makes the most sense, right? Like $sign event up here is the event. And so we're going to receive the event here. I'm plopping a debugger there just to see what it does, because it's possible that it wraps it up in some kind of something, or maybe we want to for semantic parallelism with e.target.value or whatever. So if I go and I change this, and I say what's your favorite animal, and then I didn't change that back, but I can change that back. So here's the debugger, and we've got event, which seems like it's got options, text, and type, because that's what we passed, and then index is 0. Right, so it is a little weird to
You're
throw.
using two different names
Yes.
for sort of one thing. Basically, Is that clear? Like,
Yeah.
so the event that's being fired up is actually the new question. And the way, and you can't, can you scroll up, please?
I am not able to because of that.
So here you have to say $event on line 9, right? Like you can't say question.
I think you have to say $event. Let's see. $event.
Because what I, in my own mind, what I would like to have happen so that it's clear is just use the same name for everything. Everywhere.
Oh yeah, totally.
But because of view rules and stuff, you might have to call the question $event. And then because then you could refer to what it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, we could curry that function and return a partially bound handler.
I don't even know half of what you just said, so let's not do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little weird, but the special $event variable is what Vue gives us inside of a directive string like this for the event. So that's, this is their example of warning with some piece of fixed data and some other piece of, or some piece of variable data, right? And then the warn method will take that which we pass as fixed data and that event, which, if it makes more sense to you, we could box that in something that has a .value, right? And we can pass anything that we want. So maybe the save changes here shouldn't just pass up this .local question, but it should actually pass up something like this: question, colon local question.
That would make more sense to me.
Okay. I mean, there's totally that makes sense to me to give it a name. Don't worry about positional parameters there. So we can do that. If we do that, then in Survey Builder, we're getting an event here, we're getting an event here, and then in here we say event.question for whatever it is we're doing, which is going to be a this dot, what is it called, questions? It is?
And we're going to have to splice again.
Yes, we are going to have to splice again. So this dot questions dot splice index 1, and then the new question. And if I uncomment that so that we can see that it works at any index. And maybe we don't need the annoying pre-stuff there just to be able to see more than one question on the screen at a time. Yep, let's make it say done right there. Also, where's our second question? Odd. Odd. Type error cannot convert undefined or null to object. It's probably because I've got a null right here instead of like an empty array. If I did that, then it would... Okay. Cool. Everybody fine with that? I have no idea why that did that. Okay. Carrying on. Edit. What's your favorite animal? Pick any number. I have no idea why that did that. Oh, I do know why that did that. Form submit does a page reload. Yep. So form submit actually does a full page reload, and that's not what we want. So we can easily deal with this. In fact, it's such a common thing that there's a little view magic thing right here where we can say .prevent. And again, that is listed in the event handling with the .prevent thing. I don't know, it's somewhere in there. It's probably on the beyond docs, yeah. Cool. So modifiers, right? Those are useful things. So no. Also, apparently you can make it only work if you right-click on it. I didn't even know that that was a thing that we could do. That's really cool. So now that we prevent the page refresh, if we go to edit and we change that to animal, and we change it to pick any number because can you really pick a favorite animal? Oh, so save changes needs to emit the event and also toggle editing. Nice.
So is it clear to everyone what we were doing with the dot event there and why we would do that?
So that's for any sort of non-related to that. I guess
Oh, I mean, yeah, the non-view magic way to do that, maybe it's worth seeing. You could, of course, be more verbose and down here in your event guy, you'd have to accept the event there where we get to throw it away otherwise, and then you'd have to do it. You'd have to prevent default. Right, but
That's the more vanilla.
that's the super vanilla, straightforward thing. It does end up making it impossible to reuse the save changes thing in a context other than event handler. Right, like toggle editing here, we don't have to pass anything in, but if toggle editing needed to prevent default and it took an E and it did prevent default, then we wouldn't actually be able to use it here with anything, and it would start to get weird. So it's preferred to use the view.prevent guy instead of relying on that vanilla thing, just for reusability reasons. But yeah, totally available for you. Cool. How are people feeling? We're basically at, well, they're at 2 o'clock. Pretty good?
That's much better than
I know, right? we did also, we got to illustrate a little bit of debugging, but not to the point where we're both like baffled by why is the computer doing that. Yeah, cool.